The archipelago of Bahrain consists of some 33 islands and lies to the northwest of Qatar, about 15 miles from the coast of Saudi Arabia. Bahrain is the site of the ancient civilization of Dilmun, and its strategic position has given this small island group an important role in regional affairs for centuries. Today, Bahrain is home to the United States Gulf Fleet, which underlines its continuing strategic importance. Oil was discovered in Bahrain in 1932 and provided a boost to the economy. However, the centuries-old activities of maritime trading, dhow building, fishing and pearl diving continued. As oil and gas made Arabia rich, the region boomed, and in Bahrain, massive land reclamation schemes were put into action, significantly increasing the size of Manama, the main island. In 2008, the Shark Conservation Society carried out its first Gulf expedition in Kuwait, and subsequent expeditions followed in Qatar in 2009 and in 2010. These expeditions were the first of their kind in the Gulf, and in science and conservation terms, they were groundbreaking. New conservation measures were triggered in all three countries. A shark species was rediscovered, 5 others not hitherto known in the Gulf were confirmed as being present, and the first properly recorded lists of Gulf sharks and rays started to emerge. The lack of historic baseline data made it impossible to make accurate assessments of shark and ray abundance, but the impression was that shark species were seriously depleted. In April 2012, the Society carried out a 3-week research expedition in Bahrain with generous help and support from the government. This short film is the story of that expedition, and it also looks at the earlier work in Kuwait and Qatar. Richard Peirce, the expedition's leader, made visits to Bahrain on 3 occasions to research survey sites, organise logistics support and finalise planning issues. 3 weeks field work involving a team of 17, shore bases, 2 vessels, 2 tons of sardines, 5 vehicles, market visits, video and camera equipment and a pile of field research material takes a lot of organising and loading. Anticipation mounted as they prepared to go to sea. The possibilities of finding new species, filming large sharks and advancing shark conservation were exciting prospects. With all the planning and preparation done, heading out to sea on the first day was a dream come true for many of the volunteers. Survey sites have been selected on the basis of reported shark activity. In order to attract sharks, the team prepared chum out of mashed up sardines. A chum trail works in 2 dimensions. Oil floats on the surface forming a shiny slick, and tiny pieces of material sink through the water column forming a scent trail.
If anything's going to come in response to the slick, it's going to come up that shiny bit. Have you got craft now? Can you see it? I can see a great shiny bit going down, down the current, and that's our slick.
Sharks have an amazing sense of smell, and any sharks finding the chum trail would swim up it to investigate, find the vessel, and they would then be filmed and photographed. In addition, lines were set to catch any subsurface large sharks. Smaller hand lines were continually in use under the boat, and finally a camera was fixed to a bait tube and lowered to the seabed. By adopting this multi-strategy approach, the team tried to make sure that they would be aware of any shark activity and be able to record it. The main aims of the expedition were to identify and record as many shark and ray species as possible at sea and in the fish markets. The first survey site was Fast Al Jaram, and soon all the volunteers were familiar with the tasks of data recording, fishing and keeping watch. Previously in Kuwait and Qatar it had been days before any sharks had been encountered.
Ah, what have we got? What is it?
But in Bahrain the first excitement happened in less than an hour, when fins broke the surface near the bait tube. It wasn't a false alarm, but it was as good as it got that day, as the shark was not seen again. Sharks are often associated with remoras, so confidence further increased when these fish started being caught and when a large fish took the bait on one of the shark rods. Many sharks hunt at night, and after 2 days of day excursions, the expedition headed north to Abu Tharma for an overnight exercise. On the way, fishing dhows were stopped and asked if they were catching sharks.
Shark, yeah, shark, come here. Shark, come here.
The team hadn't identified a shark yet after 2 days at sea, and the dhow fishermen reported not having seen a large shark for months.
Yeah, if they caught the fact they caught no sharks this year, that's pretty telling, really.
Abu Tharma was a hive of activity. Kingfish could be seen on the surface, and 30 dhows and 11 small boats were fishing in the area. Abu Tharma is a protected zone and theoretically closed to fishing, and when the expedition's vessels arrived, many of the smaller boats fled. Conditions had looked perfect. The sea state was calm and fish were being caught.
I guess we've got about 18 dhows around us, and they're long lining right up through our slick quite deliberately. So we really haven't got much chance. We're going to have to move, which is a bit of a shame because we've got a 4-hour investment in this slick. So we're going to try and drift backwards with the slick, stay in the slick, keep what we've achieved, and get out the other end of all this fishing activity. I'm not sure it's going to work because where I'm looking, the sea is crisscrossed with floats which mark long lines.
The team were able to fish and chum through the night. Over 15 hours were worked, and sea snakes, kingfish, jellyfish, squid and lots of bait fish came up the chum slick, but no sharks. The picture that was slowly emerging was both puzzling and disturbing, and as dawn broke over Abu Tharma, possible reasons for the lack of sharks were discussed while surrounded by fins, not shark fins, but kingfish fins, which were the reason for the large number of fishing boats. After Abu Tharma, the next survey site was Haya Shataya, and shortly after arrival, some really big fins were spotted, which lifted everyone's spirits.
We've just seen the fins and the tails of two whale sharks, which is quite exciting.
Everybody's looking for a pair of whale sharks we had on the surface about 15 minutes ago, so we've left one boat anchored up chumming so we maintain our chumming position, and the rest of us are out here looking for the animals and hoping to have a swim with them and be able to get in the water and film them.
Soon after having given up on the giant whale sharks, the team caught their first shark, which was an Arabian carpet shark, measuring only 60 centimetres.
Yeah.
At 3 every morning, Alec Moore, the expedition scientist, took a small team to the fish market. All sharks and rays found in the market had to be identified, weighed, sexed and measured.
It's not really bulky and heavy and blunt nose, so it's not a bull shark or a pig-eye shark. So there's a couple of other things it could be, but it's quite a basic black tip. It's just the normal black tip. So that's the weasel shark. Its eye is going horizontally, the pupil, and there's a little notch in the rear part of the eye.
Yeah.
It's also got this distinctive sort of translucent bit on the snout, so that's a slit eye shark.
Yes.
There were boxes and boxes of sharks in the market, which at first seemed at odds with the lack of sharks being found at sea. However, further consideration made it clear that the average of 100 sharks being seen daily in the market was very low, taking into account the large number of boats fishing Bahraini waters and that many of the sharks had been caught in Saudi waters. Local fishermen recalled times when catches had been much larger.
I remember when we are small, that time, there is the people, the old people, they know very well. They exactly take care of their food. They don't damage. And especially like they use, most of things they use the line. But now what they use? They use everything, only to catch fish. You don't care how they catch fish. Only he wants the value. He wants the money.
So the species we found at the moment are roughly similar to what we found in Kuwait and Qatar. It's a mixture of rays and sharks and guitar fish that we've been finding, all quite similar mixture.
April often brings unsettled conditions, and 5 days at sea were lost to bad weather. Forced days ashore and no sharks were dampening the morale of the volunteers, and Richard was aware that a black cloud was starting to hang over the expedition. The storms had passed, and the expedition was able to get back on the water. Back at sea, as if on cue, playful dolphins arrived and lifted everyone's spirits. The Gulf may be a badly degraded sea, but these dolphins seem to be having the time of their lives and were certainly showing off and entertaining all those on board. The dolphins weren't the only wildlife that appeared and dispelled the sharkless gloom. This rather tired young cormorant decided to come aboard for a rest. The only sharks being seen or caught were the bottom-feeding Arabian carpet sharks. After being caught and the data recorded, the small sharks were placed into a recovery tank before being released.
Better over the side of these passengers.
So working this area, we're really looking for a miracle. There have been records of juvenile sawfish here, cute little babies like this with small little rostrums. We're going to take out a seagrass area with a team of snorkelers, and they're going to work it up and down, sweep it up and down just like a police search. The other team is going to move off to deeper water and carry on chumming. In about 3-4 hours time, we'll be getting back together again.
The volunteers split into 2 teams and combed the seabed for signs of life. The primary objective of the snorkel surveys was to look for evidence of green sawfish. The areas being surveyed were places in which there were past records of these animals.
There's no life. I've never seen a sandbed so dead.
The snorkelling surveys continued. The team were determined to cover as much ground as possible. Place after place, hour after hour, the story was the same: lifeless seabeds. While the snorkelling teams went on with their fruitless search, the chumming teams relieved the monotony playing with some visitors. They had been at work for 2 weeks, so what were the volunteers thinking mid-expedition?
This is my 5th time to the Gulf, spanning over a period of 4 years, and from 2008 it appears that the same impression's been confirmed in Bahrain as it was in Qatar and Kuwait. There's not many sharks about. Marine life in Bahrain seems to be more than in Kuwait and Qatar, but still, there seems to be a situation here that needs resolving.
Everywhere you look, there's stuff being taken, and the number of boats fishing seems to be way beyond the capacity of this piece of water to support it.
There are not perhaps the sharks present that we would expect. There have been no large open water sharks, despite the many hours of chumming that we've carried out, although we have caught a few seabed dwelling sharks on the hand lines.
In the past, the people of the Gulf relied on the sea. Fishing, pearl diving and trading were low intensity, and man lived in balance with his surroundings. Today, the modern Gulf is a very different place. Man's impact is rapidly degrading this vulnerable area, and the Gulf could be moving towards becoming a dead sea. Overfishing, pollution, increasing salinity and other factors are taking a terrible toll. Alec Moore has had many years' experience working in the Gulf and was the scientist on the previous expeditions in Kuwait and Qatar.
One overriding aspect, I think, of the work we've done here is the really special diversity that the Gulf has. We've rediscovered a really rare shark species in Kuwait. We have a stingray species that's only found in the Gulf, and we have a guitarfish species here, for example, that's not even described by science. We've got intense fishing pressure in the Gulf, especially gill nets, but we've also got a lot of trawling in certain parts of the Gulf, long lining, intertidal fishing as well. Habitat degradation, so coastal reclamation is a huge pressure. We've got big effects to the estuary coming in at the Iraq-Kuwait border, the Tigris-Euphrates system. Pollution as well. The Gulf's only a very shallow, very naturally stressed system, so the animals within are under huge pressure already, let alone all these pressures that humans are placing on it.
Richard dislikes longlining. This unselective method of fishing has been responsible for the death of tens of millions of sharks worldwide. He lived in the Gulf for many years and remembers when sharks were in much greater abundance than today. So far, the expedition has found no large sharks in either Bahrain's seas or its markets. Richard is determined not to leave until he has tried everything. So, he has recruited Bahrain's Mr. Shark, and he is a longliner. Brahim has said that this time of year, the end of April, used to be a good time to catch sharks. This is the last chance. But the expedition now has the help of Mr. Shark fishing in his favourite places. Brahim's J-hooks would pose unnecessary risk to the sharks, and Richard insisted that they be replaced with circle hooks, which avoid the risk of deep gut hooking.
When the shark goes down this, it means it come up. If you have a hook in here, the shark may well swim off okay, but believe me, within 3-4 days it dies. If you rip the stomach, it's going to die. And if that hook is in the stomach area,
with all the J-hooks replaced by circles, Brahim baits the hooks and deploys his long line. The line is set and will be retrieved in a few hours. It's back to chumming and the waiting game.
So he is selling for BD15.
Yeah, per kg.
How many kg?
1 kilo?
1 kilo.
15 dinars.
And does he know the next stage? So he is getting 15.
Yeah.
What about the next stage? The person who he sells it to, how much does he sell it? To Indonesia.
Indonesia.
And China.
Yeah.
The waiting is over. It's time to put in the long line and see what Brahim has caught. 4 hooks were set and 4 hooks were retrieved with their baits untouched. So the bleak picture of a shark desert continues. The longliner had told Richard how much he gets for his fins. The next stop was the market to follow the links in the supply chain.
So this is 4 fins?
Yeah.
And it's 5 dinars?
Yeah.
Okay. And big fin, how much?
Big 15 dinar, 1 set, 3 pieces.
3 pieces, 1 set, 15 dinars?
Yeah.
And the small fin?
Small fish, 1 kilo, 500 fish.
500 fils, 1 kilo?
Yeah.
After the early morning market visit, the team went back to work with Brahim to continue the long-lining operations. The impression of a dying sea was reinforced with the discovery of this dead turtle. Once again, a fishing dhow was asked if they were catching sharks, and again the answer was the now familiar negative.
Just put back an Arabian carpet shark, first shark for several days, actually first shark for probably a week or so, so who knows, from small beginnings. We've got to go and pick up the long line in a minute. That's got 14 hooks on it. They're circle hooks. We changed them from fairly brutal J's to circles, so 14 hooks to pick up, and let's cross our fingers. We're out here with Mr. Shark, and we're in Mr. Shark's favourite place. So we've got hopefully everything going for us if there's anything to find. And we're improving Mr. Shark's chances by kindly giving him a chum slick to help attract sharks into his hooks.
The line is winched in and each bait inspected for signs of visitors. All the baits are retrieved and all are checked, and all are found to be untouched.
We deployed 2 lines for 3.5 hours each with 14 baits a line. They all came up completely clean, no sign of shark activity whatever. And this is the prime spot, and this is Mr. Shark's.
On arrival back in Manama, the expedition boats are hailed by a fishing boat with something to show them. It's a large female black-tipped shark. The team measure her and record the details.
We're 1 day away from the end of this expedition, and coming in we came across a really tragic irony. The largest shark we've seen, and she was dead. A dead female blacktip caught this morning. We've been looking, we chummed for I think 150 hours now, and how wonderful it would have been to have had that animal swimming around our chum slick live and had her swim off and produce some pups to help the health of this really rather sick piece of water.
The shark was next seen in the market in the morning.
A very, very sad end for a magnificent creature. There are no pups present, so that's a small bit of good news. At least she wasn't carrying young when she was killed. I guess this graphically illustrates why I hate coming to fish markets. This animal in the ocean would have been a magnificent, graceful, really beautiful creature, and here she is lying dead and cold on a slab with her guts hanging out all distended. A terribly, terribly sad end. So the fins from this shark?
Yeah.
How much? 3 fins?
50 dinar.
50 dinar for 3 fins?
Yeah.
When sold, the fins actually made 30 dinars. The head sold for 1 dinar, and the rest of the animal was 7 dinars. A total of 38 dinars. That's about £80 for this breeding age female, with the fins making 79% of the value. Until it was sold, the storage place for the head of this once magnificent animal was a rubbish bin. Back on the water, and the team were able to film sea snakes mating. They would rather have been filming sharks.
I don't know if the camera can pick this up, but we've got a chum slick that must be stretching halfway to the Strait of Hormuz. We've got 9 bags in the water. We've got 2 chum tubes. There shouldn't be a shark with an olfactory capability that can miss this. The assumption has to be that there aren't any sharks out there, and I actually mean that quite seriously.
The last day of the expedition, and Brahim pulls in his lines for the final time. At last they've got something which proves that the circle hooks which Brahim was doubtful about do actually work. It's a magnificent large 2-metre stingray, and while everyone is excited by this capture, it's not a shark. The circle hook has worked, and the ray is only caught in the mouth. Research can mean having to catch animals, but there's nothing better than seeing them being set free. As soon as they are back ashore, Richard and the team have to freshen up and attend the press conference, which marks the end of the expedition.
I would like to start by thanking the government of the Kingdom of Bahrain for the invitation to carry out this survey and for the wonderful and enormous support we've been given. This expedition follows similar surveys carried out in Kuwait in 2008 and Qatar in 2009 and 2010. We have confirmed 26 species of shark as being present in the Gulf. And we suspect the total number is plus or minus 30. Of the 26 species confirmed, 5 were not hitherto known to be present, and another was a rediscovery of a species which previously there was only 1 record of in the early part of the last century. This was the smooth-toothed blacktip. The other 5 species new to the Gulf are the snaggletooth shark, the slit-eye, the hard-nosed, the graceful shark, and the spinner shark. During our expedition in Bahrain, we have confirmed 16 of the 26 species that we know to be here, and 10 rays and guitarfish. Our market teams in Bahrain have processed over 1,500 sharks and rays. We've done several hundred hours chumming and fishing, and this has shown an alarming lack of sharks and an almost complete absence of mature animals from the big predatory species like great hammerheads, bull sharks, tigers, pig eyes and blacktips. Most sharks mature late, and an absence of breeding age animals may indicate that stocks of some species have already started to collapse. Our work so far has found 6 species hitherto not known to be present in the Gulf. This should be a wake-up call, because had we not done our surveys, these animals might have become extinct before they were even known to be here. In Manama's retail fish market, 4 medium-sized fins sell for 10 to 12 dinars. And big fins, and we saw some this morning, we're going to sell for 40 dinars for 3 fins. This, in shark terms, is the price of extinction.
The Gulf is a young sea which was only reflooded to its present levels some 7,000 years ago. This small sea has been alive and developing ever since. It's been a long time living. If the present rate of deterioration continues, it could be a short time dying.